I'm Steve Goldman. I'm the director of the Center for Free Enterprise. I hope you guys had a great spring break. Classes will be done soon. I'm sure you're looking forward to that. But this is the final event of the Center for Free Enterprise Menard Family Lecture Series. And we will have 3 events next fall. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But if you're here for extra credit or attending because you're in the reading group or Cardinal Flight, there'll be a QR code on the door when you leave. You take a picture, fill out the survey, make sure you put your name and what you're here for so you can get credit. And if you want to do the survey and you're not here for any credit, please fill it out. That'd be really helpful. So we're planning for next semester. We're working on a couple of events, and we'll have 3 events like this. And we'll also sponsor 2 reading groups. And our reading group this semester actually read Jane's book, and we had a discussion about that about 2 weeks ago. So it's kind of fun because you get to meet authors and things like that. So last month, I guess we got it right here. Last month we read Jane's book, The Missing Piece, and next month we're discussing Jim Ottison's book, Honorable Business. And both of these books discuss the beauty of the free enterprise system and how, when you do it right, businesses improve the lives of others. And this is what you want to do in business. You want to help other people. And so that's what we should be looking at. And we know that when we go into a free enterprise market, engage in exchange, usually we exchange money for goods or services, but both sides benefit, because you wouldn't buy the good if it didn't make you better off. And the business isn't going to sell you goods at a loss, so both sides benefit. And this is the beauty of the market. We make both sides better off. And so this is important, and today's lecture really fits that idea. And so Jane Grote Abell, she's the executive chair and chief purpose officer at Donato's Pizza. And by the way, there will be Donato's coming here in the next year, and I can't wait to try the pizza. And she's the daughter of the founder of the company. She has a great story about the beauty of engaging in honorable business. She was also on the show Undercover Boss. Anybody ever see Undercover Boss? So her episode is on YouTube. You should really watch it. It's great. I'd never watched any of those before, but it was a really cool episode. And so it's online. Check it out. And anyhow, I'm going to let Jane tell her story because it's much better than me talking up here. So Jane, thank you for coming.
Thank you. Well, hi. Thank you for investing your time and coming here today. You're just getting back from spring break, and here I get to come and talk to you. So how exciting is that? I appreciate being here. I first want to just talk a little bit about our business and who we are. I'll tell you a little bit about our history, what we stand for. Then I want to give you 3 examples of this coin that I handed out to you that we refer to as agape capitalism, and 3 different examples that we've used in our business based off of these principles. And then I'll share with you a little bit about what's next for Donato's and where we're going and what we're doing. But first, let's start out by showing you a little video. So just a brief video of really capturing our story and the heart of our business. And anybody recognize that song? 21 pilots. We didn't steal it. We're friends with them, so they let us use it for this, which is nice. So many of you might think the heart of business for us is our pizza. And while that's true, have you guys heard of Donato's Pizza before? So what we're known for is our large thin pizza, and we put over 100 pieces of pepperoni on every large pizza. So if you like pepperoni, it's a good deal. If you don't, we've got lots of other pizzas too. But we're known for quality and abundance. We slice our veggies fresh every single day, and really about giving a good thing. And so really, it's the way we do business. So the heart of our business is the way that we do business. And what you got today was just an expression of that. And my dad, although he didn't use these words in 1963 when he started the company, he actually went on and bought the domain about 5 years ago for agape capitalism. And his passion for doing that, I'll talk a little bit about his history, was because we believe that being in business based on the power of love is a really good thing, and it's a really important thing. And agape, does anybody know what agape means? Yes?
It is one of the Greek words for love. I think that is the one for, it's either friendship or love of general people.
That's awesome, right on the nose. It's unconditional love. So oftentimes I feel the most unconditional love from my dog, but it's unconditional love, right? And it is an expression of love, and there's a number of different expressions of love. So I'm glad you picked this one. But unconditional love and doing business based on the power of love. And that's what we believe. So Jimi Hendrix song, if you've ever heard this song, when the power of love overcomes the love of power, we will know peace. And especially today, there's so much divisiveness and so much strong-arming and so much power that if we can love more and we can have the power of love overcome the love of power, we really do believe that we will know peace. And so this coin is actually made by one of my dad's companies, which I'll talk about. And it has 3 different tenets. Really, every decision we ever make is made with lead with love, the golden rule, treat others the way you want to be treated. And if you do those 2 things, you'll more than likely do the right thing. So let me tell you about our history, and then I'll give you 3 examples of how we live this. So this is my dad. When he was 18, he worked in a pizza business. Actually, he was a paper boy and then a plumber for a brief period of time, and then he worked in the pizza business when he was at the age of 13. Now, why that is important to me because I'm glad he did not own a plumbing business, because I don't know that I'd be standing up here today. Not that plumbing isn't important, because it's really important. Sure, you can do it with love. But he worked in a pizza business, and what he found was he worked for 2 very different people. And one night, the manager would do everything with integrity. He would treat his customers right. He would make sure the customers got the same pizza every single time, because we believe it's our contract with our customers. He would make sure that he took care of the associates, our employees that were working with us, and he took care of the neighborhood around him. And that night, that manager worked. His nights got busier and busier and busier. So keep in mind, my dad is 13. It's before the labor laws, if you were checking on me in that. And he's noticing those nights get busier. And then on the other nights when the other manager worked, what he found was that manager would sometimes take pepperoni off the pizza or water down the sauce, because you can get more pizzas by the end of the night. Or if he didn't like the customer, he wouldn't make it the same way. And he didn't treat his associates with respect and dignity. And on those nights, my dad, at an early age, recognized the business started declining on those nights. Really great life lesson. So I highly recommend that you work in the restaurants. And it was such a great life lesson for my dad, which is why today we still hire 14 and 15-year-olds, because you can learn a lot about business working in the restaurants. And so at the age of 16, he had an opportunity to buy his first pizza place. He was super excited. He played football at an all-boys school. He went home. He's one of 5 kids. My grandparents immigrated from Germany, and so they were all working. Everybody was working in the family, and my grandpa was a butcher and a taxi cab driver, and also served in the military. But my dad was super excited about being able to buy this business, and so he went home, went to my grandpa. He was just like, I have an opportunity to buy this business. And the very first time around, it was $11,500. And he's like, if you just come in on Fridays, to my grandpa, if you come in on Fridays after my football game, I'll come in and close. I just need your help a couple nights a week, but I really want to buy this business. And my grandpa's like, No, you're not. Like, you're going to stay in school, you're going to go to college, you're going to get your degree, and you're going to get a real job. So my dad did. He went to, am I allowed to say, the Ohio State University. He was a sophomore at the Ohio State University, and he took a profit class, a business class. So many of you are probably taking those classes now. And one of the professors said in the class that the sole purpose of being in business is to make a profit. And so here's my dad's experience with different people in the business, one with a man of great integrity and principles and values, and the other gentleman with not. And he said to himself, there's got to be a greater purpose than being in business, than just making money. Making money is important. Your margins are important. We said earlier today, if you don't have margins, you don't have a mission. You won't be able to fulfill it. So it's important, but it's not the sole purpose to be in business. We believe that there's soul in being in business, and that's why we should be in business. And so by the age of 18 going on 19, he was a sophomore at Ohio State. He had an opportunity to buy the business, this time for $1,300. Good thing he waited. And he borrowed the money from his dad and his future father-in-law and opened up Donato's. Now, you heard my last name is Grote. Grote's German. I'm Irish and German. So my dad knew that Grote Pizza probably wasn't going to be the best name for his pizza place, fortunately. And so he bought the name from a gentleman by the name of Don Potts. And Don Potts was selling his pizza out of his home to local bar establishments. Don Potts was in the seminary, and Don Potts named it Donato's because it's a Latin derivative, and it means to give a good thing. So that's where the name Donato's comes from. And then my dad went to work, and he opened up his very first restaurant. So this is the very first restaurant. He envisioned it. He used to sit on the shop across the street and visualize this black brick building. And he would visualize customers waiting in line with smiles on their faces and people inside the store happy and a very, very busy store. So if you read all of the Think and Grow Rich, Power of Positive Thinking, all of the important, really business lessons that he learned was how important it is to make sure you've got, one, a mentality of abundance so that you can do good, but also that you're putting positive thoughts out into the world and then working really hard to do it. So this was his very first restaurant. This is our first contract. You'll hear later in the story, we sold to McDonald's, and then we bought it back. Our contract did not look like this. It was not on the back of a napkin, and you don't see that very often today, but basically on the back of a napkin, and that is his first restaurant. My dad did not, for some reason, build a dining room. It's all pickup and delivery. The store is still open today. We've remodeled it, but so it looks a little different. But really important part of the story. It's still one of our top 10 stores 61 years later. That's my grandma and grandpa. My grandpa, as I said, was a butcher. My grandma and grandpa helped a lot. They made the dough in their basement. It was clean. And they made the sausage, and it's our family sausage recipe, and they made the meatballs. And I always say, and I think I said it in the book, but my grandma always smelled like sausage. And I thought that was just the way grandma smelled. And now that I'm a grandma, I'm glad that I don't smell like sausage. But that's what, they were very, very involved in the business. And so were all our aunts and uncles, our cousins. And then we grew up literally right behind our first store. So the first store was a freestanding black brick building, and right behind that, our front yard was the back of the restaurant. And so every night when customers came to pick up their pizza, I don't know why my dad didn't always have it ready, but every night customers would come and Dad would say, go back and see Nancy and the kids. And so every night my mom would open up the door and customers would come in and sit in our living room and we would hang out with them. And for me, I'm one of 4 kids. I think that's when the bug started for me for the restaurant business. If you've worked in the restaurant business, there's an energy, it's contagious, there's enthusiasm, it's exciting. And for me, I loved being around people. So every single night, this is our living room. And sometimes, I don't know if I should say this or not, but sometimes we'd wake up to go to school in the morning and they're all still there. They're like playing poker. It became a very fun, but also interesting upbringing. My sister always laughs. She's like, you make it sound so romantic and it was so great. I'm like, for me it was. Like, I enjoyed it very much, being able to be around people all the time that really fed on the energy and the love of what we were trying to do as a business. Late at night, my dad would take us out and stand under this sign. So you don't see many of these around anymore, but it had the blinking lights, and this was in front of the restaurant. And he always would take us out and stand under the sign and just talk about growing Donatos. And he never talked about being the biggest. He never talked about making the most money. He never talked about an exit strategy. But as a little girl in my nightgown standing under the sign, what I heard him talk about was building a business based on the power of love. And every block that we built our business, that we would do it and be able to give back to our people and give back to the community. So, true to who we are, our mission statement is to promote goodwill through product, principles, service, and people. And we deliver that through our stores by our promise, which is simple. It's just serve the best pizza and make someone's day better. And you think it'd be really easy, but sometimes it's really hard because we are in the restaurant business, and it's a hard business. But we tried to make it really simple for our associates in the stores. When we hire 14, 15-year-olds, promoting goodwill is big. We just want you to serve the best pizza and just make someone's day better. Because our customers are coming in with all kinds of problems. And our job is to serve and to lift them up and to love. And then our values, just so for our company, is I love food. And it's integrity, loving, fun. We try to have fun, being of service to others, being open-minded, and disciplined. And that's disciplined in our processes and what we do. So early on, my dad had this idea of growth because he wanted to give back and he wanted to do more. So he opened up 2 other restaurants in Columbus, Ohio, and customers would come at night and be like, hey, Red, he had red hair. He's like, I just got a pizza from your Grove City location, and it's not the same. It doesn't have enough pepperonis, or they ran out of pepperoni, they put salami on it, or they used the wrong kind of cheese because we used provolone cheese, or they didn't bake it right at all. And so my dad decided very early on in his career to close down both locations and go back to his one. And this is when the operating platform became very important. So consistency. You talk about trust and the brands that you trust, like some of the brands that you trust. You probably go back again and again and again because you can count on them and you can trust them. And they're delivering the same product, same quality every single time. Well, that was a lesson we learned early on. So what my dad found was, I said earlier, we put 100 pieces of pepperoni on every large. He used to slice all the pepperoni with a paring knife. So that would take a long time. And he would envision, do I have any engineers in here? He thinks like an engineer, so he would envision this piece of equipment where you could put pepperoni sticks on the top and then slide it over a band blade. And so with no experience or no education in engineering, he'd work on it in the shed behind our house. He'd get some people to help him. This is the very first prototype. He would drag it into the restaurant. The band blades would break. Associates would make fun of him. They still worked with us for about 50 years. They would laugh at him. He'd drag it back out. But his whole intention of that was consistency and making sure that our pepperonis are sliced at the same thickness every single time. Now, why is that important? Well, because we weigh all of our toppings to 1/100th of a pound on a scale. It's a work of art. It's a beautiful thing. But everything gets weighed because we want it to be consistent. And so if some pepperonis are thick and some are thin, then it's not going to look the same. So it was that important to him to do that. And so he went to work on this. Grote company is now our sister company. My cousin runs that company. It's a food manufacturing company, processing manufacturing company. They are started with this machine. That's the machine fully automated. Their mission is to feed a hungry world together, so also fall under agape capitalism. And I was just sharing last week, they have grown. They've acquired 6 or 7 other companies, and they just sold a third of their company for $90 million last week, bringing on capital investors. And so all of that out of an idea of keeping the pepperoni the same thickness every single time. So we grew, we franchised, and that was an important part for us. And we were growing, and franchising is really important, which I'd love to talk to anybody about, but I love the idea of franchising. We have franchise partners that have their now 2nd and 3rd generations in their family business. So you get to create all these little family businesses, which is really fun. But 1999, McDonald's, this guy came knocking on our door. Well, it wasn't him, but it kind of looked like him. So we never talked about an exit strategy. So just to remind you, this wasn't something on our radar. But this is the time when they invested in Chipotle and Boston Market, and McDonald's was trying to really gain market share in pizza and hamburgers and Mexican. And so they had been to every one of our stores and basically came back, and what they liked about us was they said we had best-in-class people, which I agree, and that every single pizza was consistent. And if you know McDonald's, they have a consistency story. So they flew my dad and my brother and I to Chicago. I was operating as our chief people officer at the time. My brother was our COO. My sister, my mom, everybody was in the business. And so as a chief people officer, my role was to keep our culture and keep our soul of the company. So I was like, there is no way we are selling our company to the world's largest restaurant company. My dad was like, oh my gosh, we have an opportunity to influence the world's largest restaurant company on agape capitalism. And my brother, who I think had other plans anyway, was like, yes, this is awesome. We were all owners in the company. It gave everybody an opportunity to do what they really wanted to do. So we chose to sell. Great experience. Learned a lot. So from a family business, I talk a lot about it in the book. I could talk about it all day. Lots of experiences. But from a family business where you're taught, speak your mind, be respectful, have a voice, be curious, be courageous, make sure you make mistakes, to now a very big public company who brought in a CEO and about $23 million of overhead expenses and 20-some vice presidents, the culture started changing. And so my experience of we're not going to do this to, okay, I can learn something, became a really important part of our story. So their stock hit an all-time low. It went down to like $12.43 after 9/11. And I was driving into work one day, and all of a sudden on NPR, I hear McDonald's is going to sell or close all of Donato's. And I was like, that's the first time I heard that. And so we had a new CEO. He came from McDonald's. We had a whole bunch of people that came from McDonald's that were operating in our business. And by this time, my mom left the business, my brothers left the business, my sister left the business, so it was just my dad and I. And I heard it on the radio, and I walked in, and my dad came in the office, and he sat down, and I was like, Dad, we got to buy the business back. Like, we have to buy this business back. We have 5,000 people counting on us. I know we have a destiny. I believe in what we're doing. I will sell my house. I'll take everything on the market. But I really need you, Dad, because you're really smart and you're a visionary. But I really also needed his money because I didn't have enough money to buy the company back. And so during this time with McDonald's, we sold high. There should be some study on it, but it wasn't strategic, and we bought low. So by the time we bought the company back, we were losing about $10.5 million. And so most of the questions I get is like, or $7.5 billion, like, why would you buy back a business that was losing money? And it's because we believed. We believed, one, we have something that people wanted and can bring people together, but also we believe we could build a business based on the power of love. And so we put a team together. My dad and I bought it back, and then for us, it was an example of really understanding how the power of love guides our day-to-day decisions. In that 1 year, we had a $10.5 million turnaround, and we didn't change anything. And that's so sensitive of brand perception, right? So when we sold, customers were like, I'm boycotting you. You're no good anymore. Your pizza tastes different. And we never changed anything. To we bought it back, and customers were like, this is the best pizza it's ever been. It tastes like it used to. And so just recognizing the importance of your brand and what you stand for and who you are is important in order to build your brand going forward. So we're now in the third generation. I have 5 grandkids. I have 2 on the way. I have my son and my daughter are in the business, and then my youngest daughter is a behavior therapy counselor. So, because we need it, probably. And an important thing about a generational family business is making sure they want to do it because they love it and not that they're doing it because they're trying to make me proud. And just to back up for a minute, when my dad did come in my office, I was like, I have no idea how to buy back our family business from the world's largest company, but I know we can get really smart people around the table and that we can do it, which we did. And it was a wonderful experience just to go through in and of itself. But what I learned then was to pause and make sure I wasn't doing it to make my dad proud or make sure I wasn't doing it for the wrong reasons. But I was doing it because I really believed in building a business based on the power of love. And so when my children are now old enough to get into the business, they have to work when they're 14, but my goal for them, and part of some other family business things, is to go work somewhere else for 10 years, and then they can come into the family business if they want to. And so that's what my two did. So 3 examples of agape capitalism. So this coin that you have in front of you, the Grote company makes this coin. They make really big equipment and they make really small equipment. And this coin really just truly represents our values and who we are, but how we make decisions. And so I wanted to share with you just a couple examples of how we've made decisions using this coin and these 3 pillars. And the first one really is leading with love. And what does that mean? And like, how do you lead with love, especially in today's turbulent times? How do you lead with love? So when McDonald's bought us, I, again, was a little nervous about it. I was our chief people officer. I had studied companies like Southwest and Chick-fil-A and gone to visit them and just asked questions like, how do you keep your soul and grow your company? Because every company, every university has a soul, has a spirit of who you are. It represents who the organization is. And so my goal was to keep our soul. Well, when we sold, I was very, very, responsible for it too, but it was very important to me to make sure that we were able to grow and keep our soul. But we had a new CEO come on board. We had 20-some new vice presidents come on board. And so I was really excited to learn, and I went to lots of conferences and learned what it was like working for a public company. And shortly after that, I learned what it was like to work in fear. So I was working long hours. Things started out great, and then they got hard. And it went from being a very family business to a very public corporate business that made decisions every quarter because they were public, and we were not. So as a family business, we were able to make decisions that we could invest in our ovens if we wanted to, because it was the right thing to do. And as a public business, it stopped short of that, and we were making decisions by the quarter. And so I was working a lot. I would go back and do that differently because I wasn't balancing my life very well. And then all of a sudden, we had expanded over 250 locations with McDonald's. One day, the CEO said we need to pull all of our stores, all of their 23 restaurants, out of Atlanta. And there's lots of stories. I was still very vocal at this point. I was like, what are you talking about? These are still profitable stores. And he said, we have to send a message to the street that we're focused on the right things and do it for McDonald's so McDonald's can be focused on the right things. And so it was such a great lesson for me because I resisted it at first. And then I think I realized during that time that it wasn't my decision to make, that we had to do it. And so at this point in time in my career, if you're ever working for a company when you're not aligned with their values, and then you have to start becoming someone else, that's what was happening to me. And so I started realizing that my voice wasn't being heard the way it needed to be heard. So I started operating differently. I started thinking differently. I started becoming a little bit more corporate than I was family business. And one day, I just looked in the mirror and didn't like who I was anymore. So there's lots of words for that when you try to become something in order to fit in. But for me, it wasn't integrity. I wasn't losing my values. I just operated differently, and I wasn't operating with my head and my heart. I went straight to my head. And if you don't balance both, you can lose yourself. And so I started working in fear. And I say this, I wasn't afraid of losing my job because I had an employment agreement. I wasn't afraid financially because that had already been taken care of. But I was just afraid we were losing our soul and who we were as a company. And so I started operating differently. And then when this happened, my aha moment was, this doesn't feel like my dad's pizza place anymore. My mom used to cut hair too, by the way, so that was her. She did that. It wasn't my dad's pizza place anymore, and it didn't feel like it. And I knew I was responsible for that as a chief people officer, and I didn't know how to get it back. And so I decided that we were going to work with a team, and we as a team were going to go to the CEO and say, okay, if we have to close the market, 23 stores, 500 jobs, then we're going to do it the right way. Oftentimes you see, and unfortunately restaurants are closing a lot right now, people will put a sign on the door, and then that's it, right? As a customer, you're like, what happened? Or you read it on social media. or whatever we do on social media. We reeled it on social media. And what we decided to do was very different. So we had 500 team members that were being impacted. We gave everybody a 2-week notice, kept the store open, gave all our associates a 2-week notice and a package. We gave severance package for all our managers, but also held a career fair for them so that we had Papa John's, we had Pizza Hut, we had Domino's, and every single person had a job by the end of those 2 weeks. And then we flew 42 people to the support center, from the support center, to help close the restaurants. Because if you ever had to do that, it's really hard. So it's not, sometimes you have to make hard decisions. Sometimes it's not in your circle of control or your circle of influence. And so in doing it, it's how do you do it and lead with love? How do you do it and do the right thing? And how do you do it and treat others the way you want to be treated? And so while it costs a lot of money, about $1 million, my vision for that was one day Atlanta's going to have on their front page, Donato's comes back. But before that, they're going to have Donato's closes, but they did it with goodwill. And so this whole time, that's what I kept thinking is, that's the message I want to send. If we're going to close 23 restaurants, I want people to know we did it with goodwill. And it ended up on the front page, which was really cool. And it is about, you can make hard decisions and still do it with love. And while they're hard, it's important to do it the right way. So that's leading with love. That's an example for us on leading with love. The second one is the golden rule, which is to treat others the way you want to be treated. And so I'll use this example. I was chief people officer at the time, and we would see, I'm sure you may see, a lot of people panhandling. And while they're panhandling, asking for money, I used to be like, oh, well, here's an application. We hire people all the time. We hire second chances. Come, and we will hire you. We have homeless people that are working for us. We have people that have been incarcerated. Like, come into our store. We'll hire you. Well, what I didn't really realize is not everybody is ready to walk through the door to get a job. People are falling on really hard times, whether it's housing or hunger or health. And so it was really important for us to make a difference in a bigger way. And so the mayor actually had called my dad, and on the south side of Columbus, where our first store was, the neighborhood fell on really, really hard times. So 1 in 4 houses were boarded up. Used to be a high manufacturing area, neighborhood, and all the manufacturing left. And so 1 in 4 houses were boarded up. It was the highest human trafficking, highest drug, highest gang. Kids between the ages of 16 and 24, 26% of them were not in school, they were not working, and they didn't have their GED. It was 18.5% unemployment. So no jobs, abandoned buildings, and a lot of hopeless people. So the mayor called my dad. He's like, hey, you're from the south side, aren't you? My dad's like, yeah. He's like, things working out pretty good for you? And Ted's like, yeah. He said, come drive with me. And so while we drove around and understood what was really going on in our own neighborhood, where we grew up, we knew we had to do something different. And so you've probably heard this, right? And especially in philanthropic giving, you can give of your time, you can give of your talent, and you can give of your treasure. And hopefully you can give of all three. So my dad said, I will do the treasure, you go find the talent, and take the time to do something. We don't know what we're gonna do, but we need to do something different for our neighborhood. And so I did. I called my friend, Tanny Crane, who has a family business on the south side of Columbus, Crane Plastics, Crane Group, if you've heard of them. They've been in business 75 years, and we had dinner. I said, I don't know what we're doing, but we're gonna put $1 million in, and she said, okay, I'll match you. And I was like, cool, but now I still don't know what we're doing. And so we really just gathered a lot of smart people. You find you do that in life, right? I don't know what the answer is, so let's just gather some people. So we did a survey of over 2,700 homes in this neighborhood, and there was an old vacant elementary school building, which is this building right here. It's been sitting there vacant for 5 years. So think about the deplorable situation I told you about. Not one broken window. If you've ever read The Tipping Point, this is such an example of that. No graffiti on the building. There was copper on the building, nothing stolen. TVs in every room, nothing taken. It was as if we walked in, there were lesson plans still on the chalkboards. People had hope in this building. And so in our survey, what we found was people needed 5 things. They needed safety, so the city went to work on street lights and sidewalks. They needed access to health, so they built a free health clinic down the right 2 blocks away. They needed affordable housing. And so we worked with the city and some developers and renovated over 200 homes and just built 8 units in the last month for our neighbors for affordable housing. And then the 2 biggest ones we went to focus on is they needed access to jobs. They needed, one, to get educated to get the job, and then they needed education. So in this building, we raised $14.5 million, and it's a public-private partnership. It is a nonprofit. It's called Reeb Avenue Center, but our goal wasn't just to create another nonprofit, because there are a lot of nonprofits out there, but was to bring our nonprofits together in one building. So as an adult, I can come in and I can drop my children off at the Learning Center. That's free for my infant through 5-year-olds. Or I can take my kids up to the Boys and Girls Club, where they serve over 100 kids between the ages of 5 and 18. That's after school care and summer programming. And then I can go on the adult education floor, where I can get my GED, I can get my customer service training. Men and women come in that have been incarcerated. We do mock interviews with them, help them talk about their past. We help with Goodwill is one of our partners. They do STNA, which is State Training Nurses Aid. We graduated over 350 people last year into the local hospitals from our neighborhood. And the whole focus is really, truly, let's help people find a job. We hire Mitonados too. Help people find a job, a living wage job, but then also help them with education. We also have a cafe where we serve healthy foods to our neighbors, because oftentimes our neighbors only have access to something a dollar menu might provide. So we serve quinoa and shrimp and chicken and kinds of foods, honestly, they have never been exposed to before. So that's Reeb Avenue Center. We have Love Kindness. It's a closet where oftentimes our neighbors come in who are homeless, who don't have shoes, they don't have socks. And then we also go out into the neighborhood for the people that are holding the signs up and panhandling and hand Love Kindness cards out. And the Love Kindness card gets them a bus pass all day long to the center, but then also we connect them with a social worker and help them find all kinds of things. Sometimes it's just as simple as a birth certificate. And one gentleman had VA benefits, he had no idea. So now he's living in a house and he has a job. And so sometimes it's just helping them get over that hump. And out of that, I think what I learned, because we always gave 10% of our profits back to the community, but as a company, when you start growing, and we're just like, we always gave it back, but sometimes it was really just kind of scattered. So we gave an inch deep and a mile wide. We gave back 10% of the profits. So it was going to things like, oh, that golf outing, or yes, that scholarship program. And then after we did Reeb Avenue, which I currently sit as the chair, it's been open 10 years now, I got to thinking, gosh, we could do so much more if we got focused as a whole company, and then we really focused in on what's important to us. And so that started our Donatos Family Foundation, and we're just 2 years into it, and it's called Love Our Neighbor. Like, it should be that simple, just love our neighbor. And we focus on housing, hunger, and health. So just in the last 2 years, we raised and gave back 1.3, almost $1.4 million. And with every campaign we focus on, we're focusing on housing right now with Habitat for Humanity. We do a volunteer day. And so all of our people go and volunteer and help in one of these 3 categories. So in the last 2 years, we've had over 2,200 volunteer hours from the people in our company. And it excites me every single time, the number of people that sign up to go out and make a difference in their community. And then from Undercover Boss. So did any of you see the episode Undercover Boss? Oh, you did. Okay, well, I know. I was talking to a group the other day, and they're like, Undercover Boss, what's that? Because that's how old I am. Well, we did Undercover Boss. It was a hit CBS series, and it's about the boss goes in, dresses up. That's me. I was Kathy. And then you have to act like you don't know what's going on in your business. And then people tell you all kinds of things, right? And I can talk all day long about that another time and how they do that, because you're like, they have cameras. Like, how hard is that? But they do a really good job on this ruse. And so if you do decide, this is funny saying it now. So back in 2014, no one talked about marijuana being legal. And so we had a delivery driver on the Ohio State campus tell me that when he delivers pizzas with his customers, he hangs out and smokes pot with them. I was like, dude, that's not cool. So yeah, you can see all my facial expressions on that show because I wasn't doing Botox. And I was just like, what in the world? Like, I called my dad in the middle of the night, like, oh my gosh, Dad, like, this just happened. And my dad said, I was crying, it's true. I'm in the bathroom because we weren't allowed to talk to anybody for 2 weeks. And I took the phone and snuck in the bathroom and kind of in an infant position crying. I'm like, this could destroy our family business. Like, this could be really bad. And my dad said at 3 in the morning, well, did you lead with love? And I was like, I did what we would do, which is give him, well, you'll have to watch the show. So I said, yes, I did lead with love. But from that, and being able to help people we find, right? Because making a pizza, while isn't a living wage job, it can lead to living wage jobs. So we hire 14 and 15-year-olds to make pizzas and to serve. And it leads to living wage jobs. But until they get there, I think what we found was we have a lot of people in need. And so from Undercover Boss, if you watch the show, we did some really cool things for some people. We created our Donato's Promise Family Fund. And this is all of our associates can volunteer their own money into a foundation, and we match it. Donato's matches it. And it's an emergency assistance program for our own people, by our own people. And so they contribute out of their paychecks. You end up getting another week of vacation for it. But then we meet quarterly, and we talk about the people that we've helped. And some of it's as simple as their car broke down, and they couldn't pay for it. And so then they couldn't get to work. And it's that one paycheck away that can completely change your life. And so that's what our associate, our Promise Family Fund does for us. We just last year did $60,000 back to our own people, and it helped people all kinds of things. Unexpected funeral, couldn't pay the mortgage, was gonna get evicted, and they're all able to stay on board. So that's practicing the golden rule. The third one is just doing the right thing. So I'm watching my time clock, so I'm gonna start talking a little faster. But if I talk too fast, I'll get out of breath. But I really wanna share this one with you because doing the right thing sometimes is really hard. And when you're living in a gray area of business, you'll find this, whether it's school or life or personal, anything, sometimes you just are in a gray area and you could go, oh yeah, that's okay. Or yeah, we should do that. Because it's gray, there's no black and white around it, and that's hard. But you have to pause sometimes and just really ask yourself, what's the right thing to do? And so you guys were probably all in high school when the pandemic hit 5 years ago. But it was a different time in restaurants, right? You lived it. So we were closing down, we were opening up. We were closing down, we were opening up. We were 6 feet apart, we were taking temperatures. We were putting masks on, we were taking masks off. And our restaurants aren't that big. It was hard. It was hardest on our people. And I'll tell you what we did for the end of it, because it was a year of really hard work for them. We ended up giving everybody a sabbatical. So however many years they've been with us, we gave them that many weeks in a sabbatical. So we had some people that have been with us for 30 years, so it was a lot. But they needed a break. They just needed a break because it was hard. It was a hard time. And so we all faced it. And immediately, double-digit sales decline. Things just started going down, right? We had to close the restaurants. And so if you've heard of the PPP, I'm sure you guys have talked about it, we filed for the PPP. And the PPP is intended to help businesses be able to pay their people and maintain business while we were shut down. So we filed and we were approved for $8 million, which is a lot for a family business. And so the letter of the law is that's what it was intended to. So we filed for it, we were approved for it. We had 2 weeks to make a decision. We were 2 days away from saying, are we gonna keep it or are we gonna turn it back in? And then I called an emergency board meeting with my family, my dad, me and my dad. No, we have other people on our board. And pulled this coin out and we talked about the spirit of the law. And business started coming back. So 4 weeks, it was awful. 2 weeks, it started coming back, knowing people really needed, we were considered essential workers, and then people needed food. And so people were figuring out how to do it differently, right? Now all the restaurants have figured out how to do it differently. But the spirit of the law was for the people who really weren't going to be able to get through that. It wasn't for mid-sized businesses. We were going to be able to get through it because we were a little bigger. But the mom and pops, or the small businesses, weren't going to be able to get through it. And so if you heard, you probably read all of that, right? They ran out of funds, and then all these people didn't get it, and all these big companies took it. We decided not to take it. And the reason we decided not to take it because of the spirit of the law and doing the right thing, and we thought that that was the right thing to do at the time. And I'm not going to lie, it was really hard to turn down $8 million. And then it's tied to the government, right? And so all of that plays into decision making, but these coins helped us every step of the way. So that's a little bit about doing the right thing and our 3 principles and how we make decisions. And I'm going to end and just share with you real briefly a little bit about what's next for us, because we're really excited about innovation, and then I'm going to open it up for questions. So we do believe this is good business sense. It's the reason I wanted to buy it back. It's the reason my kids are in the business. I believe we can build a business based on the power of love. And the day I don't believe it anymore is the day I won't be in this business, because every person that we hire, every franchise partner that we bring on, this is really, truly the reason we are doing it. I love our pizza. It's pretty good if you haven't had it. It's quality, it's abundance. But I love being in business and being able to prove that you can build a business based on the power of love. So real quick, where we're at now. We have 476 locations. We're in 29 different states. Our largest franchise partner, strangely enough, is Red Robin. They approached us and said, hey, we like your pizza. Hey, do you want to be in our restaurants? It wasn't quite that casual, but it kind of was. We're like, this is an opportunity. But my first thought was like, what is with these hamburger chains? Like, stop. I'm not interested in hamburger chains. But it really gave us an opportunity to put our 250 square foot little pizza making station in their restaurant. And so across the United States, they serve Donato's Pizza in their restaurants. On digital, you can get it, so it acts like a ghost kitchen. It's been a really great partnership with them. They're very like-minded, they're very aligned, and they do a really great job serving our product. But our journey of innovation from my dad, from early on, the Grote manufacturing piece of equipment, is still getting patents. So he just got a patent on our smart saucer, and now he has the smart pep. It's on tabletop. It's also in our restaurants to make sure that we have consistency. We've moved a lot in digital. If you can only imagine, a couple years ago, I'll go back to 2011, it was only 9% of our business. It's 80% of our business now. Because how many of you pick up the phone and call someone, unless it's your mom, right? I mean, it doesn't happen anymore. And so the world's moving to digital, and so are we. And we're moving to artificial intelligence. I always say it can be scary if you let it be scary, or we can be curious and learn and do good things. And so my dad seeded some funding on research to figure out how to program compassion and empathy into robots, because they'll learn what you give them, right? And so that's Sophia. That's what he's been working on. We've also done a lot of menu innovation. My dad, our family just donated, I'm super excited about this, money to the integrative health, which is all about body, mind, and spirit. It's traditional medicine, but also really functional medicine. And wherever you believe in that spectrum, but it is about your whole body, mind, and spirit. And so the family just donated a significant amount to, the Ohio State University for this, but I'm excited for 2 reasons. We're in the food business. It's our responsibility to make sure we're feeding you healthy food. And so that's why our pepperoni is 45% leaner. It's why we use provolone cheese instead of mozzarella. There's less fat. It's why our dough doesn't have egg in it. It's why it's a thin crust. It's why we do why we took out trans fats and MSGs and bromate years ago, because it's the right thing to do. It's not an advertised thing. It's just the right thing to do. So now we're going to work with Ohio State. I'm super excited, and you guys can work with us too on this if you want, but all about infusing things into the products, because you're always going to eat pizza, we hope, but how do you infuse things into the products to make it healthier? So we're talking about infusing B12 into our dough, things like that can really help give us that leading edge. We have cauliflower pizza. Health is really important to us, so it's an important part of our menu innovation, and then our operating platform. So we went from this, I'm just going to show you real quick. I'm trying to, do I have 1 more minute? Because I'm going to show you this video, to a fully automated pizza machine, and all the equipment that you'll see. And this next, we call it Peptron, it's completely automated. It's managed by a robot arm, and then it goes through the whole process to delivering a pizza in under 4 minutes to a customer. not a traditional restaurant, but in universities, in the airport, and hospitals is where we're looking to do this. And so all of this equipment that's in there, my dad just got patents on. He's 81. Just to close a little more, our new tagline is "Gotta love more." So, Gotta Love More represents who we are, and I'm super excited about our new branding because it's more abundance, more toppings, but really, truly, especially today, we just have to love more. We have to love each other more. And that's in every essence who we are. So, I know I went over just a few minutes on speaking, but I'd like to open it up and see if anybody has any questions. Yes.
If you have questions, there are microphones here in the back. Will you please come back here and use the microphone? No, we're trying to record this, so you need to use the microphone. Okay, thank you.
With
Sorry.
love.
Yeah, sorry about that. That's why. Yeah, appreciate it.
So I think we really love the way you actually put everything together and the way you've built the business on love and you yet use a lot of technology there. But I have a question regarding the franchise business that you've built. And you have really stiff competition, especially in the pizza business. We all know about it, but yet you've built such an amazing business. So what do you think you guys have done differently when it comes to operating with franchisees that has really worked for you?
Thank you for that question. I really appreciate it. And in our business, we call them franchise partners. I used this joke earlier, and my kids aren't here, so I'll say it again. A franchise uniform agreement lasts longer than my first marriage. So the most important thing is that you pick the right people. There are so many people with money out there, and so many people have knocked on our doors but don't live this. And if they don't live this, then we're not interested, because really building a Donato's is about giving back and doing it based on the power of love, and that's hard to tell. So we have a very long process to bring people on. Philip is one that's going to be developing here in Louisville. But it takes time, which is why we're not in it to be the fastest. Don't want to sign up just a whole bunch of franchise partners because we want the media attention and tout that we're doing that. So I think that's one. I think the other part of it, and I learned why franchising works, when we bought the company back, and we were losing money and things were hard. I was our COO and president at the time, so I was out visiting stores. And we had 2 stores in Cleveland. I told the story earlier. We had 2 stores in Cleveland. They were double-digit down in sales. They were down in profits, not doing good. And we sold it to the district manager at the time. And within months, sales back up, profits back up. He was doing great. and his name's Harold, which is my grandpa's name. But I was like, Harold, what are you doing different? And as soon as I said that, a delivery driver walked by, and he took money out of his pocket. He said, I'll tell you what's different. I've worked here for a long time. This is Harold's money. And I said, well, it was my money before. He goes, I don't know you, and you're not here every day. And I know Harold's children. And that's why I love franchising, because it works. And that's why it can be generational. But also, we're not a discount brand. And you're right. Pizza Wars, honestly, in my 45 years of working in the business, I've never seen it this bad. Right now, don't go out and buy it all, because I'm telling you the good discounts. But Domino's is 50% off. Pizza Hut is buy one, get a whole pizza free. Like, it is discount pizza war out there more than ever. And what we're trying to do is stay true to our brand. We could discount, and we do some discounting for a short period of time, but we could give you that kind of discount, not on a long-term basis, but we'd have to take pepperoni off our pizza. We'd have to change something, and we're not willing to do that. But what we are doing is upholding the brand with quality, and then, so you'll know when the store comes, you can get any of our sides, a sub for $5, or wings for $5, or a salad for $5, and build value that way. But you build value through people and consistency and trust and respect. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's what we're doing, trying to do. She's running.
Try not to waste time. Beautiful presentation. I was wondering, with the amount of automation that you showed us, like upcoming, that very impressive machine, but of course as the people officer and as a business that has these values, do you have any like specific thoughts or policies or guiding principles going forward with automation and trying to keep that people element and take care of people?
Yes, thank you. I knew you were going to ask that. I met you earlier. Yeah, absolutely, because we are in the people business, and I love still hiring 14, 15-year-olds, and I love having careers for people. We have people that, right, this week we're celebrating someone that's been with us for 40 years. A restaurant manager, been running the restaurant for 40 years. Very unusual in the business. We will always build traditional stores, and we will always hire from the neighborhoods, and we'll always hire really second chance. But the people aspect of it, what we want to build to is more of an opportunity for our people to learn people skills and be interfacing with our guests instead of, and to be honest with you, you hire a 14-year-old today, they're just a different generation than I was, and putting 100 pieces of pepperoni on is not cool. It's just not cool. And so I was very worried about it. But as soon as we only have the pep in 4 stores, and we have the Smart Saucer in our company stores in Columbus. As soon as we put it in there, we got a cool factor for some reason, because you press a button, one, it's quicker, but it's more consistent, and it's not the manual menial task, but it's working with the equipment. So it is going to be a fine balance. Our restaurants will always be people-focused and people-centered, and the automation, we always say food served with love nourishes your soul. The automation in that robot is about making sure all the equipment, that's why we call it agape automation, is built with love. And so even if it's automation, that it's built with love, that we're able to deliver it. It will be a challenge, but I'm excited about it because I think we can do it, especially with this new generation, which are most of you, in a way that's going to attract people to a really different way of doing business. Yes?
Yes, so how do you hire 14 and 15-year-olds and still instill that level of excellence to carry out your vision, mission, and values? I know Chick-fil-A does it in a way. They teach emotional intelligence and they put them through some classes, but what have you found to be the secret sauce?
Very similar to them. Actually, in 1990, I went out and met with Dan and Kathy. They're a great company because I was like, how do you build something so big and keep your soul? And whether you agree or not agree with who they are and what they stand for, they've built a really good business and they've kept their soul. And they were generous with their time, and he spent 3 days with us. So he said I could. Borrowed a lot from them and being able to teach your values up front and the selection process, right? They go through a very rigorous selection process. We are actually taking our leadership team to Chick-fil-A Sunday night and spending 3 days with them again about innovation and automation and keeping your culture. And so I do think they do an awesome job, and I think we can learn from everyone, but a very similar process because of them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you for coming. I really love your approach to business. When you bring up your time with McDonald's, you talk about having to close all those locations just pretty much to appease Wall Street. Do you think public companies who are big or bigger like that can run in a way that your company does, or does it need to be private in order to do that?
I love that you asked that question, and thank you. Because if you asked me 2 years ago, I was very weary of public companies watching, and it just never made sense to me. I'm like, well, we need new ovens. Why can't we buy new ovens? And it goes back to the early days when my dad was like, I want to pay taxes because I want to be able to give back to the business and not buy boats, right? And so it's really important for me. That lens was important. But a year ago, I got called to interview with Texas Roadhouse to be on their board. And he had heard my commencement speech, which I was talking about this, and the recruiter did. And so I went through their very rigorous interview process, and they gave me hope. They gave me hope. And I would say what I'm learning, I was appointed to the board last year. What I'm learning is you can be a public company and you can be true to your values and who you are. And they're really good people in that company. And they make decisions because of the people, not because of the profits. So thank you for asking that.
So you talked about, thank you for your presentation, by the way. So you talked about being chief people officer, and you quickly mentioned being a chief operating officer as well. What was the process of going through those roles and eventually becoming executive chairwoman and chief purpose officer?
Thanks. That's a great question. So I grew up in the business. So ever since I was little, I didn't get paid till I was 11, but I was cracking eggs for my grandma, making the dough. I would say I grew up in operations. I ran the restaurants. I was our training manager. I love being in the restaurants. It's where you learn the most about your business. I went into the people department, honestly, this is just truth, because I became a single parent, and it was really hard to manage nights, and that position became open, and it was then called, none of you are old enough to know this, personnel department. It's really old. And so that position became available, and I was dropping my son off at my sister's and picking him up at 2 in the morning. It was hard. So I was like, you know what, I like people, I'm gonna interview for it. Had to interview with my mom and my dad. And I actually graduated in organizational design and communication, so I did have some experience. And then I fell in love with it. And what I think I fell in love with it, do we have any human resource people on here? It isn't the laws and the rules, and like, you can teach people that. It's because it's all about people. And you get to be able to express yourself and create an environment where it's about people. And so we called it the people department in 1992, actually. And then when we bought the company back, I was still our chief people officer, but I became our chief operations officer because we were losing $7.5 million and we had to turn it around. And my dad was our CEO. And then I became president and then CEO and then chairwoman. And so I think I was just stepping into the next step every time. And sometimes in a family business, that's hard. It's really hard, and succession planning is really important. And I'll be honest with you, I had an older brother, a younger brother, and a younger sister who all left the business. And when it came time to buy the business back, they all wanted to put money back into it. And I knew we were gonna turn it around. And these are hard family discussions you have to have sometimes. It was like, you can only put 2% back in unless you come back to work. And none of them wanted to come back to work. And that's not a bad thing. They all wanted to do their own thing because you have to follow your heart and your desire and your dream. And so it was at that time, actually, before we bought it back, the CEO, actually from McDonald's, said, I don't think you see the talent that's in your daughter. Because my brother, this is just true, it's generational. My brother was the one that was always going to run the business, always. And so that transformation happened. But for me, it's having courage to step into things, and you don't have to know all the answers. You just have to get really smart people around you to make sure that you've got enough information to make good decisions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
I think you might have one.
Yeah, so I was wondering, how do you see inflation and rising food costs affecting the pizza industry, especially with groceries and everything else?
Significantly. We don't use eggs in our dough, fortunately, but cheese. So more than you want to know, but cheese has been as high as $2.50 per pound to $1.40. And so we measure that every single day. In the inventory, we can hedge, so we buy futures. We've done a really good guy that does our purchasing, has been with us for 36 years, and he does a really nice job. But it is impacting us, and yes, we did take price increases over the last couple years. We have not, because there is that fine balance of traffic and consumers. But it is definitely impacting us. But we've been in business 61 years, and we've seen it before. I hate to say it. So we know we'll get through it. It's going to come up, and it's going to come back down again. We just have to manage our way through it and be smart about it.
Okay, thank you for being here today. That's all.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you guys for coming today. We were hoping to have Donald's Pizza, but the franchise hasn't opened here yet. And Taco Bell graciously gave us tacos. So you have tacos out there.
That's good.
I don't think that's as close of a competitor.
You
But
good.
we want to thank Jane. Wonderful talk, and this is for you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you guys for coming.
Thank you.
Good luck on the final, and we'll see you next fall in our next meeting.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. I know you could be doing millions of things, so I appreciate you being here.